So Tyler, we've got a good looking, fairly clean bean field behind us. I know you and I worked a little bit to find a couple escapes, so we've got something to talk about. But you know, in your area, what are you seeing out there across the soybean fields, but corn as well? You know, are you seeing a lot of escapes or really not too bad of control?
Well, this year was pretty tough. Just trying to get that corn in and then getting your beans and slicing them in. And I feel like weed control was put on the back burner this year, Tim. You know, I'm seeing a lot of weeds out there this year.
So this is Tim Mundorf, Nutrient Management Lead for Central Valley Ag. And today with me, I've got Tyler Statsny, our field sales agronomist out of the Ulysses location. But today for our agronomy focus video, we'd like to focus a little bit on weed control and talk specifically about that kind of toward the end of the season reassessment of your program. And I know, Tyler, you've got kind of a way that you like to talk to growers about how they should overall manage their weed control program. What is that?
The acronym that I use is STOP. So, you know, we want to spray early. When we talk about early, we want to talk about, you know, those 3 to 4 inch weeds. We want to spray on time, Tim. We want to make sure that we're getting in there, you know, 21 days after that post. You know, it might look like bare dirt, but we want to get there in a timely fashion. We want to optimize our spraying. We want to use the right rates, Tim. We want to use the right volumes, gallons. We want to get good coverage. And then we want to write nozzles and then make sure that we're on label, of course. And then we want to finally pair. We want to pair with residual products. You know, I talk about group 15s or long fatty acid chain inhibitors. Those products are going to have a nice layer, a nice base for us that is going to extend that residual out there and that weed protective barrier. So,
when you think about that early season weed control, what are you pushing hard for, Tyler? You take an assessment of what the weeds are out there before you make a change, or have you got some pretty good ideas from the grower what you need to do?
So I like to have multiple modes of action when I'm going out there with my chemical plan. Like I said before, I want to start with a good solid base. So, you know, those diphenyl ethers, you know, those pre's, you know, the sulfentrazones, the valors, those type of products that we're laying out there. We want to add an additional mode, those group 15. So if it's not an S-metallic or dual or a Zidua or an Alley, those type of products are going to give us that residual and extend us out. And then when we can start talking about a post application on soybeans, and the same thing goes for corn. You know, we want to have that multiple mode of action up front, and then again come in post, again adding multiple modes of action.
I know that group 15 has pretty much no activity on the existing weeds. It's all about stopping that weed from getting out of the ground.
Absolutely, it's about creating that barrier. And Tim, like we're holding right now, you know, I'm holding the Palmer and you're holding the water hemp. This is a great example of this particular weed germinating all the way from May up to September, you know.
And the one thing about Palmer, so we talk about Palmer and we talk about water hemp, and to be honest with you, I think the darn things have crossbred so much that it almost hardly get to be able to differentiate them anymore. Now, in this case, you've got a Palmer, and what's your way of identifying a Palmer?
So, so you nailed it. So they're dioecious, so there's male and female plants, and they crossbreed. But the biggest way to identify this is looking at this petiole. So
if the petiole folded over is longer than the leaf itself,
absolutely,
it is a Palmer, or it's got a lot of Palmer characteristics in it. And in this case with my water hemp, we can do that exact same thing. Now, I notice a lot of times that a water hemp, sometimes the leaves will be a little narrow, but not always. But again, folding that petiole over and seeing that, boy, the petiole's only about half the length of the leaf, that tells me that this is a water hemp. As you look at the plant itself, though, I mean, when you hold that up, that's a monster. I mean, it's really more of a bush. There's a lot of air and open space in this plant, and part of that might be, you know, its reaction with the herbicide we tried to kill it with. But a water hemp just isn't quite as efficient at growing as a Palmer, and a Palmer just puts out a lot of leaves, a lot of growing points, tough to kill.
You know, this thing, you know, it can put over 1 million seeds out. So every one of these is definitely devastating to potential crop. Every year we want to try to strive for a clean field, and definitely every plant is competing for space, water, and nutrients, and it definitely impacts yield.
So if you're a grower out there and you're thinking about how your weed control did this year, you know, please make a call to one of our field sales agronomists, get a hold of Tyler or one of the other guys, have a conversation, talk about, you know, what you did this year, what worked, what maybe didn't work so well, what weeds were your escapes, and let's make a game plan for next year now, while we're not in the heat of the battle like we had this year with such a collapsed planting season, so we can put a plan together and execute that plan as we go into next season.